You guys, I'm super excited to have my friend Jon Warden on the podcast with us today. Me and Jon came up together, went to a lot of the same teen camp, church stuff. We also attended the same Bible college. We're going to talk a lot about that. And in the last year, me and Jon have lost a combined total of about 100 pounds. Him a little bit more than me, but we have a lot to talk about. So if you're looking to jumpstart your weight loss, if you're looking to reminisce about college days in fake Jesus college, come on over. We're so excited to present this to you. I promise you, if you have a background that's similar to mine at all, I know a lot of you do, you're really going to enjoy this podcast. So once again, as always, thanks so much for watching. Can't wait for you guys to check this one out. I'm Stuart, this is Jon, and this is the Not Your Mother's podcast. Salud. So, a little bit of background about me and Jon. How long, we were talking about earlier, and you said something like 16 years or something, 17 years?
Yeah.
We've known each other a very long time. And I'll have people on the podcast that I've known for a long time, short period of time. I'm looking at having friends that I know just from out here in California. But Jon is going to be someone that I've known for longer, that I've known a lot of people that I'll have on the podcast, I'm sure. So really excited to go over some stuff with you guys today. We're going to start with weight loss because not recently, but in the last year or so, me and Jon have, let's figure this out, a combined total. So I went from 208 to, and now I'm back up a little bit, 208 to 174.
Okay.
And you went from what to what?
I went from 264 down to 183, and I'm back up to about 188, 190.
264 to 183.
Yeah.
So what was your total then?
Was it 68? Or a little bit over?
68.
No. Geez, 80. No, it's over 80.
So let's say 80.
When we talk about where we went to college, it has no effect on my math. But yeah, no, for sure. Because it's 65. Yeah, so that's definitely 65. So yeah, right around 83.
So 83, and then mine was 208 to 174.
It's about 35.
That's 35. Now we have to add those two numbers together.
So 35 and 80. 35 and 85. 116.
Jeez. You lost a lot of weight, dude.
Yeah.
This guy lost more than me. But I want to kind of talk about that for a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of people, whether they watch this podcast or not, I'm not saying a certain demographic is a certain way, but I want to help. I want to help you. I want Jon to help you. Jon, you have to look at the amount of weight that he's lost, that I've lost, and say, okay, we did do something right. And this isn't, calm down, don't turn it off yet. This isn't a braggy podcast, I promise. But we want to talk about how your mind works through all of this and what got us here, possibly you here, what steps we can take that actually work, and how it's not that easy. Just, you can't, there's a, I feel like I don't know if it's an American thing or just a Western thing in general, but there's this movie mentality where one day you're going to wake up and all of a sudden it's going to be better or it's going to be okay. No, it's work. There's a lot of work, and it's not just at the gym. It's nutrition as well. Okay, so back to what I wanted to talk about, getting started. Our society, I feel like, has gotten to a point where there's so much blame that's misplaced. Whereas I'm not saying you should blame yourself for everything and everything's your fault, right? But I am saying it's easy for us to get in this mindset of like, well, this put me here, that put me here. And sure, circumstances, have a lot to do with where you're at in life, but it's about overcoming them. So just to speak to the circumstantial a bit, I want to talk about how we were both, just a smidgen about how we were both in a very similar, religious standing, and how that actually did attribute to our weight gain.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying that, oh, religion made me fat. You could kind of say that though. So speak to that a little bit, Jon. As far as like, what are some elements from inside the religion that we were a part of that you feel like would absolutely contribute to weight gain?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, in how we were brought up, one of the biggest things that was never talked about was physical health. And so a lot of times the people that were, for lack of a better word, put up on a pedestal had terrible health. the diabetics, with
That's
nothing
true.
against diabetics, but a lot of
No.
times it just had to do with their diet,
Yeah.
not with what they were born with.
Yep.
A lot of times diabetes, especially type 2 or whatever, is reversible by diet.
Exactly.
So, but that wasn't even really spoken to. And if anything, it was more praise. They always talked about, I don't know if you ever heard it, but when larger size people got up to speak, it was always, they'd always make a reference of like biscuits and gravy, or,
Oh
you
my
know,
God, all the
prayer
time.
meetings, especially, where that's pretty much all it was. But when we were brought up, it was never really talked about.
No.
It was just kind of pushed aside.
To speak to that, one thing that I'll get up on a soapbox for just a second. One thing that I think, just when you said that, I hadn't thought about this the whole time because we've been, hashing out ideas over the last couple of days. When I was in high school, tiny high school, okay, I remember, and I mean like, I think the whole school, K5 through 12th grade, was like maybe 30 of us. I know a lot of friends from my high school have seen this, the first podcast, so if you want to jump in the comments and set me straight, awesome, thank you. But so like the upperclassmen, so like from junior high up, which would be our upperclassmen, because upperclassmen was like 4 people. We had, I remember we would have, from like junior high up, we'd have PE like 2 or 3 times a week, I think. PE was playing kickball co-ed. You weren't getting a workout. The kids that were in good physical shape got to show the girls like, hey, I'm in good physical shape.
Right.
And it was a lot of us ogling over each other, if we're honest.
Yeah.
But I remember taking that and thinking one day, I was like, no, like, fuck this. Like, we're not getting anything.
No, for sure.
It's true.
For
So
sure.
I actually took, I had gone, several women that I've told this to assume that I'm a bad kid because of this. I didn't go to military camp because I was a bad kid. I know that's hard to swallow, but that's not why I went. I was just a week-long thing in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I believe it was Cedar Rapids. And it was fun. I learned a lot of stuff. Didn't sleep much, ate a lot of deer, and it was cool. It was kind of like Boy Scouts for people who didn't have Boy Scouts, because we weren't allowed in the Boy Scouts,
for
God
sure.
forbid. Anyways, they gave us a handbook that had given us a lot of like military, like teaching you facing movements, left face, right face. I can't remember all of them. And then just like workouts. And so what I did was I took all the guys and I asked the pastor. Actually, my dad was the principal. Small world. I asked the pastor and my dad if it would be okay, and they said sure. So I took, for a semester, I took the guys and we would do push-ups, sit-ups. We would do cross-country running, and I taught them, these facing movements. So that's just going to show you like how little emphasis is put on your physical fitness as a child. Like I want to get to as an adult, but as a child, like coming up in it, like you said, these men are heralded, like and there did come a turning point. Jack Scott and a bunch of them, I don't know if he did it, but a bunch of people up there got on that HCG shit and lost weight.
Yeah,
a lot of them lost weight.
Yep.
Which again, that's all diet, so it's not like you're not losing weight, but it's not putting in the work as much.
For sure.
Anyway, sorry.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I don't care, bro. But no, actually, now that you brought up, when I think about high school, the high school that I went to, the same thing, small Christian school. Yeah. I had 5 in my graduating class.
I had 2.
So automatic valedictorian, salutatorians.
100%.
Nice.
And when I went to college, I would tell them, half my graduating class were here.
Yeah, proud.
Very proud moment.
But I want to say, I don't remember if it was in 8th grade or 9th grade, but my youth pastor, Jon Warden Jr., was really the one who started.
Yeah.
He implemented it, and
the Garage of Pain.
Yeah, Garage of Pain, and it started us getting into it.
That's awesome.
Before I went to college, because I had never been. Believe it or not, I was 5'6", 5'5" or 5'6" up until I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I weighed about 185 pounds then. So when they bought me clothes, and I tell my wife this, Lindsay, and she always feels bad for me. But when we went shopping for clothes, we had to look for the husky size. It wasn't men, it wasn't boys, it was just
This
husky. It was a nice way of saying that you are grossly overweight for your age. So we want to accommodate you by making these clothes.
I remember husky, yes, dude, husky.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the cool wolf-looking husky either.
No.
There was no brand name to it. That was just, it was the kind of when you went into Walmart, they kind of looked at you, pointed to a back section, and that was pretty much it. But when I hit 9th grade, I went through a huge growth spurt where I trimmed out a lot. I kept the same weight, and I hit about 6'1". I grew about 6 inches in over a period of summer, which was very painful. But
yeah, I bet.
but no, he really, Jon Jr. really started that, and still to this day,
Awesome.
I mean, the guy, he's in phenomenal shape.
He's in great shape.
And he just kind of put that in there. So he was really the first one that I saw that spoke, that was really about, physical health. But other than that, man, I mean, really, when you look at the people that, when we grew up, I mean, if they put them on playing cards with their stats, you know what I mean, on the back.
It'd be rough. It'd be rough. So again, like that, and I think that's a big to speak to then as an adult. You know, once you've been in it, and then you're married, you have kids, and so you know the two of you and I'm not speaking to anyone's marriage or their spouse, but just as life goes on, like you'll see it in, this isn't just in religion, you'll see it in everyday life. Like that, you can tell people just let themselves go. And again, this is not me like being critical. No, I'm just saying like, because I was there. So if I'm being critical, I'm being critical of me too. So I'm saying, you know, it's easy to just let yourself go, really. Like, look, you have your house, you have your car, you have your kids and your spouse, and you're good. You don't have to work out if you don't want to. It's America, like really. So as adults inside of that, good God, we ate all the time, and people were always taking us out to eat. You know, but that's definitely a big thing if you're in in a leadership position and a position. That's good whiskey. So if you're in a leadership position, it's kind of understood that you never pay when you go out to eat.
Oh, for sure.
People are going to pay for you. The underlings, so to speak, are going to pay for you. So I'm not saying it's not like that outside of religion or in other circles, but like that was our experience, and so that didn't help at all. And then there was always a potluck dinner at least once a month. At least. And we're from the Midwest, so it was always a fuck ton of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Now it escapes my mind. Casserole. Oh my God.
Casserole.
I ate so much which is if I don't
mashed
cook,
potatoes and gravy.
Oh my God. Yes.
Rolls.
Rolls.
Sopping it up.
So much bread. Dude, so much bread. And so
for sure.
And I remember that casseroles, and for any, I don't cook, but for any of you that also don't cook, casserole is basically some kind of pasta and usually mushroom soup and then something else in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then they put it in a pan and put it in the stove. Casserole's not good. If you like casserole, you have a problem.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right, moving on before I get in any more trouble. So something that I found happened for me. I went through a period of about, I'd say at least a year to maybe 2 years of trying and giving up, losing weight, feeling like, you know, having that moment, like the night before you watch Rocky or something. Somehow you find this little bit of inspiration. Sure. Right? Oh man, I want to talk about inspiration, and inspiration is important and motivation is important. But having a schedule and you know, making yourself do it is where the rubber meets the road. Oh yeah. And the word's escaping me once again. But discipline. Discipline. Thank you. Discipline over motivation every single time. Thank you, John. So trying and giving up, and I don't mean trying like the next day you go to the gym for an hour, right, and then you're like, you know what, fuck it. Like I don't mean that. Although that's one of the things that happens. But what I'm speaking to is trying to, over a period of time, I mean like a week or at least 2 or 3 days, where you're just like, man, I can do this. I know I can do this. I want to speak to that just briefly about the frustration that comes from that, trying over and over again and just not being able to make it stick. Talk to that a little bit, John, if you would. I will as well. But
yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of give a little backstory, before we moved out, we lived in Indiana, where we went to college, and we were there for a while. And really what kind of triggered it, because through college, the college we went to, and everybody knows it by now, but it was just a terrible schedule, terrible eating habits.
You didn't sleep, you ate terrible.
It would literally destroy your health. I still catch myself eating the same way, not the same types of food, but I'll sit down to a meal, within 5 minutes I'm done, which is a terrible way to eat. Yes. But I mean, I can think...
You didn't have time. When you were in, you just didn't have time.
There was no time.
It was a McDonald's breakfast. Here's the time. Sorry, and we're going to get into college a little bit later, but here's when you had time to eat. If you could make yourself stay awake on the way to the bus route in the morning, you could eat your McDonald's breakfast in peace in the car. Yeah. On the highway, on the Dan Ryan. Yeah. Anyways, that was when you had time.
In peace. Which, if anybody knows the Dan Ryan, it was...
no peace there.
Yeah, it's like the 91 here in California. But just, and not to go, we'll get into college later, but that kind of set the precedence of terrible eating habits, terrible sleeping habits, high stress, and just really just wrecked me. So after we graduated, I stayed for my master's, and it was the same thing. I was working full-time job doing that. So it finally just clicked. A guy at work, believe it or not, I don't know if you remember him when you worked at NCS with Sal. Hispanic guy, super cool guy. Yeah. But I just remember, like, every time he would see, like, he saw me and he made a statement to me. And, you know, he was joking around, but his nickname for me was Gordo. which in Spanish is fat boy.
Fatty, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and not, he was playing that nothing by it, and I just thought, I was like, dude, you're absolutely right. So that kind of began I was like, you know what, let me try this. And the apartment complex we lived in had that gym, and
Dude, I never went to that gym.
Right, yeah. And
I didn't even know we had one.
No, we did. We did. But that's kind of where it started before I moved out here, but that was short-lived.
Try and try again.
That was a try and try again. It was short-lived. I tried it for about 2 weeks, but the schedule and everything just gets overwhelming, and we'll talk about that. But that's kind of where it started for me, and that was over. I've lived out here for 5 years. That was over 8 years ago. Damn. That when I first started to try, because after college, man, I put on the weight. I mean, dude, there's a reason why over time I was up to 265. I was not that in college.
No, not at all. Well, and I think, and again, maybe there'll be some health experts want to weigh in, and that's great. But I feel like your metabolism plays into that a bit too. We're getting older. We're not getting younger. There's entropy involved. It's just like you're not, you're not burning that stuff like you used to for sure. Mm-hmm. So let's break that down then. So 8 years ago really was when you first were like, you had the aha moment and were like, shit, I need to lose weight.
Absolutely.
And then when did you really start losing the weight? Was it a year ago? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, how
for
long
sure.
ago was that?
So when we moved out here, I just put in my 2 weeks notice, and that was it's all happening at the same time.
For sure.
So it was a lot going on. And so when we moved out here, I didn't have a job lined up. I had saved up money, and I was just like, you know what, let's move out here.
Same here, except on the saving. I don't have any.
Yeah. Well, I use saving in a small term there. But we came out here, and everything kind of got put on the back burner.
Yeah.
I started working at a job, and it was super high stress. And from that point on, I did not start working out or even really do anything remotely healthy till a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
So there was about a 3-year gap from the time I started, where I just literally, for lack of a better word, just gave zero fucks on how I looked, on my health, on my schedule, and I put everything before it, and it was terrible. Yeah. It was absolutely terrible. My energy was down. I just felt, I was constantly tired, and dude,
it's a vicious cycle,
bro,
isn't it? You think about,
miserable.
It's hard for me to envision food as fuel, but it so much is. Like when you're eating, and here's for those of you that are maybe in that place where you're trying and trying again, like where we've been, Jon's saying, for years on end.
Yeah.
And the same with me, and I'll get into mine just briefly, but when you go from eating, if you can make yourself let's say for 2 weeks, eat right. And I don't mean fucking like a rabbit, like salad every day. And I don't mean crazy. I just mean clean. Okay? No more fast food. No more. You don't even have to cut out the carbs. Just eat from home.
No sodas.
And try. Yeah, no soda. Get rid of as much sugar as you can.
For sure.
And just try some turkey. I love turkey. Anyone that knows me and anyone that sees this that knows me is gonna be like, oh my god, this guy with the turkey again. I love turkey. It's delicious and it's very lean. So again, I'm not trying to like get you on a fitness regime. All I want to say is, if you can take 2 weeks and just do your best to not eat out, and if you do, have chicken wings or have something that's protein, not fries, not burgers. If you have a burger, have it protein wrapped, meaning have lettuce around it instead of hamburger buns. I wonder, do they do that back home?
I did not hear about that until we came out here. Lettuce was always a condiment that got taken off and put on the side. Nobody really even, they were like, lettuce wrap. When I first came out here, like protein style, I just thought they meant more meat between the buns.
Exactly, yeah.
Giggity.
But that doesn't make sense. How does protein style make sense? It doesn't make sense. I guess, okay, because it's all protein.
Because there's no carbs,
okay.
Well, there's no carbs as far as coming from bread.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the lettuce wrap is the way that everybody says it. So,
at any rate, what I'm saying is, if you're tired every day, and you realize like I'm getting a decent, if you're getting 6 to 8 hours, you shouldn't be super tired.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying this is across the board for every single person. Everyone has different health ailments or what have you. But if you're getting a decent amount of sleep and you're always tired, check your diet. Mm-hmm. Try that for 2 weeks, and then go get a double cheeseburger for what, $1.29, $1.49, and taste the cardboard.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, you're right.
And I'm not saying it's all fast food. I'm saying like your main ones, your Hardee's, Carl's Jr., Checkers, Dairy Queen, McDonald's, Burger King. Take a week or two. Try just eating clean for yourself, and then go have a burger and just taste the difference. It is unreal.
Yeah, it is.
I couldn't believe it because I did the clean eating for a while, several months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what was happening. I was running around one day. I didn't have time. I went through McDonald's. I ate the burger, but I was like, oh my God, this is awful.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be hoity-toity about it, if that makes sense, but that's what happens. Anyways, trying and giving up, I would say I did it. I didn't really work at it until after, a couple times actually. When I was married, I worked at it a couple times, and I would lose a decent amount of weight. But I think if you're in a relationship or married or engaged, something like that, if your significant other wants to get on board with you, that's amazing. Do it. But sometimes every time you're gonna run at different levels. So trying to figure that out is a bitch. That's not easy. And that was what, I'm not blaming anyone else. It was me. But like that was my drawback, was like we were at different places and we were trying to come to the same place, and it just wasn't gonna happen. And if you're not in a same-sex relationship, guess what? It's gonna be very different. From what I've seen, it's pretty difficult for women to lose weight. And I'm not saying that as a dig at women.
No,
it's hard.
It's the chemical makeup. It's just physically.
So my thing, I would say the last 3 years, then it would have been on and off. And then finally during the last year of my life, it's been like really trying to stay on it. But I took a 2-month hiatus or 6-month hiatus. I just finished that a couple months ago, and so that was not good. But anyways, all that me and John are trying to get at is, if you're in that place where it's like, man, I've tried so many times, I just can't make it work. We get it because we've been there. And I think for me, you have to come to a place where you're huffing and puffing doing something that you shouldn't be huffing and puffing, or it's just like, for me, honestly, bending over to tie my shoes. Oh my God, that's the worst thing. And I've developed a habit. I got shoes right here. I developed a habit of not tying shoes. I don't tie shoes. I still don't. I've lost the weight. I hate tying shoes, guys. J's, those are the only things that I tie. But I don't tie shoes. And for the longest time, it was because this is so difficult. So difficult. And so clipping your toenails, tying your shoes, whatever it is, I think for all of us, there comes a point when we're like, okay, something has to change.
For sure.
So I want to talk to that a little bit. For you, and obviously the Gordo moment, but like your most recent work where you really transformed yourself, can you look to either, it doesn't have to be a moment, but can you look to something that was like, damn, like this has to change, or wow, I'm really inspired? Because I feel like inspiration and motivation have their place. Discipline is what will get you the results. But to get you started, a lot of times it takes that inspiring thing or that motivational video, whatever it is.
For sure. So what really kicked it for me was a couple years back when we first moved out here. I was in a car accident. Nothing crazy.
I still remember that.
Nothing crazy, but it had herniated my disc about 1 inch. So my disc was literally 1 inch out, and that was
fucked up your sciatica.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, my whole right leg was numb and in constant pain, and so I did about 9 months of therapy, stretches and chiropractor and injections and all this stuff to try to alleviate that. And that was a time that I literally put on, I want to say like 40 or 50 pounds.
Jeez,
that was the spread.
How many months?
Man, within that time frame.
9 months.
I literally just stopped everything because I couldn't lift.
Move.
Now keep in mind, that was on me because I could have regulated it by how I ate. But when you're in that place, your mental, when you think like, oh, I can't work out, so it really doesn't matter what I eat. That is the worst place to be in. Oh my God,
I've been there for the last 6
because you
months.
can regulate weight loss by your diet without having to implement a bunch of weightlifting.
Absolutely.
Does it help? 100%. But that was the position I was in. So after that, it was about a year when I finally got my clearance and I started just very lightly doing it. And I still wasn't in a good place. But I just remember waking up. I remember waking up and I was just like, man, something has to change. And I remember putting on my pants. It was a size 44. I'm sorry, size 44. Wow. And that's when I was just like, I can't keep going up. No. So I made a decision right then that I will not buy any other clothes. I don't care how bad I look in it. I don't care how fat my rolls look, how tight the shirt I was. I made a decision at that point where I was not going to buy any new clothing.
Awesome.
I bought a pair of cheap gym shoes and I walked. Now for me it was a little bit easier because the apartment complex that we lived in out here had a gym literally 60 feet across.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not saying that, but I literally just walked across one night and I just started. And for the first 6 months, I didn't really even lift weights. I literally just did cardio. I did an elliptical. I couldn't do anything else. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just literally just focused on that.
Yeah, and physically you were unable because of the accident. So, one thing I want to speak to real quick, but I want you to continue. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off here. That's exactly what I'm doing. the thing to keep in mind is we're talking about gyms at our apartments. Literally, these apartment gyms, you can buy all the equipment, just about all the equipment they have for a decent amount of money, $200 maybe. Yeah. And, you know, elliptical, whatever, you can walk, you can run outside. But dumbbells, for me, was what really, that's what I was using. That's when I was losing the weight, I wasn't going to a nice gym with a bunch of equipment, and neither were you.
No, not at all.
For me, it was a lot of dumbbells, and just YouTube is a beautiful thing. Like, figuring out, you know, what works and what works for you. So, anyways, sorry.
No, absolutely.
What got you started?
So
would you say
it was
the accident and the weight gain were big factors?
Yeah, and it was just, I just woke up one day, and I think this comes to everybody. You literally, and I'm not about, like, you know, self-hate or, you know, I think everybody ought to be very comfortable with who they are. Absolutely. But you ought to be more excited about who you could become.
There you go.
And I think that's kind of what triggered it for me. It's like, yeah, you know, it didn't really affect my personality, but I could tell I was more uncomfortable in social settings.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I try to use humor a lot more to deflect, just because it'd be 100 degrees outside wearing a hoodie, just because I felt like it helped hide it. Did it help hide? Yeah. Absolutely not. If anything, it more magnified it. Yeah. But I literally just got so, it was, I would like to say it was an inspirational, like I saw something, I read something, but to be honest, I just more or less got pissed at myself, because I knew that I was better than what I was, and I could become better. And that's really just what triggered it for me. It was just, I just got so sick of how I was feeling and how I looked. And especially with having a younger, you know, at that point, going to be having, I mean, we had just had Connor. Yeah. He wasn't that old, and I just thought, you know, I don't want to be the dad that, you know, is sitting in the grandstands, that can't do anything, and he's on the sideline, and just, I can't be that guy that he needs me to be. I can't run with him. I can't do what I want to do.
So true, dude.
And so I kind of use that as my inspiration, my motivation to say, I want to be the healthy dad that sets a good example for my son. And when he looks to me, you know, he doesn't just see the terrible habits. So that's kind of what changed it for me. It was all about perspective.
Awesome. I like that, dude. That makes. I mean, that's big. You know, I mean, there's a lot of factors that push you to that point. It's not just like, oh, well, this is it. Like, and I like what you're speaking to, because to me that says, like, there doesn't have to. We're all different. Like, for me, there was one thing really that got me going, but. You know, if I look into it, I could break it down. There could be more than one thing, but for you, you're naming several elements. Yeah. I think that's great, just to show, like, we're all different. We all tick different. Different things work for different people, whether it's cardio, weights, whatever it is. Like, it's going to be different. If you're trying, there's nothing wrong if you're getting with some fitness expert and they're giving you a meal plan or something like that. Like, man, go for it. That's awesome. But understand that you're different, and what this person gives you or what you read online, you've got to make it work for you. For example, when let's see, I had my mom had lost a lot of weight. Seeing as how this is not your mother's podcast, we'll talk about my mom. My mom had lost a great deal of weight. I can't remember how much, 20s or 30s, something like that. And she did a great job losing it, mostly diet for her. So I noticed that. I talked to her about it, and she said, she just gave me a list of things to buy. And this is not a dig at my mom or anyone that's ever given me nutritional advice. I remember on the weekend I went to Aldi's, which we have one out here now. I went to Aldi's. I bought a bunch of fucking lettuce and a dry salad dressing and, like, all this stuff. Like, I probably spent $100, $150. And I threw that food away a week later because I didn't want to eat any of that. I don't like lettuce. Should I be eating more greens? Absolutely, but I'm not. And I'm not saying, like, oh, just do whatever you want. But you have to find out what works for you. You have to find out what you like. And again, that's for me. For me, I had to find out what kind of food I enjoyed the taste of, but also wasn't killing me.
That's a great point.
You know, that's what I had to do. And then that may not be it for you. I've got a friend, Trenton, who was able to, he did those Soylent drinks. Like, I don't know how you do that. Because with what he did was he trained his mind to understand, like, I don't need the satisfying taste of pizza or a hamburger or fries. I just need fuel to get me through the day, something to ingest to run my body, just like you put gas in your car. My mind, I'm not saying it can't go to that place, but I don't want to go there. I'm good with never ever going there. So you have to figure out what works for you.
Absolutely.
So you know, that's something I just wanted to speak to as far as, like, diet. Like, you can have people throw all kinds of ideas at you, and you can listen to what I have to say and what John has to say. You have to figure out what works for you.
That's a great point, man. They have a I don't know how many different. I mean, I tried not diets. And you can crucify me for this or not. I don't believe in dieting as what a lot of the health marketers and everybody will push on you, or this diet pill or green teas and all this stuff that people use to make money, which is fine because a lot of times I'll let people be like, hey man, if it works for you, definitely do it. Because it has a placebo effect. Even if there's actually no natural, if by doing something it makes you want to do the actual healthy thing, do it. But you spoke to it. I think what a lot of people don't realize is they want to get healthy. They don't realize how expensive it can be to start eating healthy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, what I would say to you is, what's more important? I would just do a quick judge, and this is up to you. But for instance, for one of the things I did was I cut out cable. $120 a month for cable. I could take that money and implement it into buying more and healthier foods. Why? Because that's a priority.
Yep.
So rather than watching people eat healthy on TV for $120 a month, I then just took that money and dumped it back into my budget and say, let's try to eat healthy, because it can be expensive, which a lot of times turns people off. They try it for 2 weeks. They look at their budget and then they're like, oh my god, why would I want to spend $15 to do this when I could go to KFC for $5 and get 15 pieces of chicken?
It's so true.
It's convenience.
But I think you said it well when you named out or called out a fast food restaurant. It's true that it's cheaper in some ways, but I find that if I'm getting sausage and eggs, I'm buying them at the store. When I'm not eating crazy healthy, like I'm not on some crazy health kick, I'm just eating cleaner. I say, and I'm not disagreeing with you, because like if I ate at McDonald's every day, yeah, it'd be super cheap. But like you can, I can test that there's not. Okay, if you're gonna go super crazy and like eat only organic and that sort of thing, and I'm not against that. For sure. But if that's what you're doing, yeah, you're gonna spend some money.
Good point.
But I feel like you're gonna balance out a lot of that fast food. You're not gonna spend that much more if you're eating from home. Yeah. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying like you can do it. You just have to, like you said, prioritize. For sure. For what I would spend, and I loved. Oh my God, I would eat Chick-fil-A almost every. Oh my God, their breakfast. Yeah. Delicious.
Do they have that out there? Do they have that in the Midwest?
We have Chick-fil-A out there.
Did they put it out there?
I don't know if they have breakfast, but yeah, I think there's one in Crown Point now.
Is there?
Yeah. Man. The Mecca. So, or Cherville, Maryville, that area. I'm pretty sure.
I still kneel every morning.
Yeah, you have to. You have to pray.
HAC.
We'll get to that. I face Stuart Park. At any rate, it's another story. We should tell that one though. Oh shit! See, this is good conversation.
Fast food. Budget.
Yeah, it's if I were to, oh my God, and I would drink sweet tea for breakfast or Coke from McDonald's. I went to McDonald's. I was drinking so much of my calories and my sugar. So sweet tea for breakfast, and then their cross-cut fries for breakfast, and then a sandwich with bread. And I was like, oh, why am I so fat? Well, I'm so fat because I'm eating terrible food, and I'm spending a lot of money. For what I spent $7 or $8 on that breakfast, I can buy 2 dozen eggs. And I can buy the sausage. I can buy 2 rolls of sausage. Yep. So, and again, I'm not saying this is across the board. I'm just saying for me, this is what worked, and it kind of evens out. Like I can eat more for less, and it's better food. Yeah. Are the eggs from an actual chicken's ass? Are they grown in something? I don't know.
From ass to stove.
But it's better for me. I can tell you that. Yeah. Anyways, my I'll say it briefly, but I feel like I really had. My mother helped like get me into the rhythm and dedication and discipline. I just keep missing that word of like making the diet and everything work. But the inspiration for me came from my friend Josh Bennett. I don't know if he'll see this or not, but Josh has he had and I'm not. I hope he's fine with me mentioning this. I'm not trying to say anything negative at all. But Josh had an accident. And due to that, his leg, I believe it was one of his legs, I can't recall which, I believe it's his right leg, just doesn't function properly. And Josh, I hadn't seen Josh in years, and Josh came and visited me here in California. We had an amazing time. My brother came as well. And when Josh visited me, every day he would go to this little gym right here, and he would do work for like an hour. I'd be at work, and he'd go to this little gym, and he'd put in work. And he had lost a lot of weight. He had done really well. And he would come home, and then I'd come home later in the evening, and we'd sit there and talk, and he'd say, yeah, you just gotta, and I'd sit on the couch and like eat a whole bag of potato chips and think, oh, see, why I'm not losing any weight. And he's like, what? Like, go to the gym. It's right here. I've been going. And stop eating that terrible food. So, and he didn't say anything to those of me. He was very kind. But seeing his dedication and thinking, if this guy can go do it, I can do it too.
For sure.
So whatever your inspiration has to be or whatever your motivation has to be, I feel like there has to almost, not the stars align, but something close to that where things fire off in the right succession.
Yeah, for sure.
Where you see something like I saw my friend, or John has 2 or 3 things that like contribute to, oh shit, like I need to change this. Like I think that it plays a role.
Yeah.
I highly doubt that it's just one thing. Like there's a video that I love that's motivated me like when I'm in the gym all the time. I love it. It's from Mulligan Brothers. It's amazing, but it can't be just that.
Yeah.
You know. So anyways, that's the inspiration, motivation, and then because I'm the social media guy, that's my thing. I want to speak to how. This is going to be a funny statement, but it's going to be in the tagline, I think, so I'm just going to say it. How Snapchat helped me lose weight. And that sounds stupid, and that sounds very 13-year-oldish probably, but it's true. And this will be, and I want you to mention your thoughts on that as well, especially if you disagree. But my thoughts are, because Snapchat and now Instagram have a stories option where you can post something that's gone in 24 hours. And I have found an incredibly supportive community of people that I've never met.
Mm-hmm.
Never met. Whether it's people that have a great following and have a fitness program themselves, or just someone like me that has gone through a transformation, or someone that's trying to. There's a lot of people, most especially on Instagram and a few on Facebook, that I've never met. And some of them actually live out here in California, but I've never met them face to face. But we encourage each other, whether it's a caption on a post or a comment. What I've found with Snapchat and Instagram is that stories option where something goes away in 24 hours, where you might feel like posting a selfie and it's going to be there forever is kind of narcissistic, and I'm not saying it's not. Or like just always pictures of yourself is kind of like I don't like me that much, no one else will either.
Mm-hmm.
I get all that thought process, but when you're posting something that's going to be gone in 24 hours and not that many people are going to see it, it kind of tempts you like, I think I will.
Yeah.
Like, and I like that. And on top of that, anytime I post something where I'm in the, and I post every time I go to the gym, I post because if you go to the gym and you don't post,
did it happen?
The tree didn't fall in the woods. So you it's all jokes. But all that to say, I always get positive feedback. Yeah. I always get someone in my inbox saying, "Hey, just bicep emoji," or like, "Hey man, good work, good to see you getting after it." Like I always get positive feedback. Yeah. And do I put that post out there just to get the positive feedback? Yeah, for sure. Absolutely, because it's helpful. You need that. You need encouragement. I don't care where you're at in a fitness journey or where you're going. Like having someone give you a good shot in the arm, I don't think you can put a price tag on that.
For sure.
It's very, very good. So that's my bit on very much believing that social media can help you lose weight. Also, be careful. Because it's funny because I mentioned this to John earlier, and I remember putting out a post right after I'd gone to the gym, and it was just like me, a thumbs up, and it was a real close up, so I was sweaty. You can see my warts really well, or moles, whatever the hell these are. And I do remember very vividly someone coming and commenting and saying, "You're ugly." I'll never forget it. And I think I commented back to him, or maybe I deleted it, I don't know. But I'm not saying that you will never, ever get negative feedback. It will happen, but overwhelmingly so, especially if you can reach out to people that are on their own fitness journey, you're going to get so much positive reinforcement. It's a huge tool.
And just to kind of speak to that.
A huge tool to help. That could come across wrong. Sorry.
No, and to speak to that, for all the bad, I mean, you see it on the news and people talking about it, online bullying and all this stuff. It's a great reverse. I think, because are there always going to be dicks out there that are going to say, you suck, and you're fat? It's probably some 600-pound dude behind a keyboard not doing anything. Keyboard warriors. Yeah, that's what they're called, keyboard warriors. So you're always going to have that. Don't let that stop you. But I think it's a great turn because these are people that have no investment in you. They have no obligation to tell you look good. Yeah. It's like when your wife asks you, does this dress make me look fat? I am obligated 100% to say absolutely not. And FYI, Lindsay, if you're watching this, I love you, babe. But no, it's just there's certain things when you're put in a position where you have obligations to do that. So when you put something out there and you, for lack of a better word, you kind of expose yourself properly, and you put yourself out there, and you get complete strangers that, to be in all honesty, look a million times better than I honestly will ever look. But they're saying, "Hey man, great job at putting in the work," because they have no obligation to do that. So yes, that motivation and inspiration from putting that out there says, you know what, other people that really have, they could say nothing, but they choose to comment, they choose to do its community, and it just kind of gives you that thing, you know what, I think I'm going to keep doing it, and you feel a part of something, rather than, but again, motivation and inspiration will only take you so far.
True. It's discipline.
It's discipline 100%, because there's days you wake up and you literally do not want to do anything.
Oh, no, and some days you don't.
And some days you don't. You know, and that's when you look at it and you have to say, because it's all about perspective and balance, and you know, and a lot of times I think that's where, since we're talking about health, is a lot of times I think that's why it gets put on the back burner, because you know, when, especially in how we were raised,
you have religion, but you have your kids, you have your job,
you have finances.
Oh my God.
And just putting this plug in there, a lot of times when we were, and not to reference our religion or how we were raised too much.
That's the next topic, so let's just
because it's gonna segue a lot into it. But I feel like we have to make mention of it, because that's really what formed us. When you think about it, it was a foundation. And
were you born into it, or were you?
Oh no, bro! I was born in Hammond, Indiana.
Yes. Were you born at St. Margaret's?
We were born at the same. We were born at the same hospital.
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's.
No, is it Margaret's or Mary's?
No, St. Mary's. St. Mary. Now that I think about it, it could be either one. It was one of those things that we do not endorse. We do not endorse the Catholic religion.
We do not.
No, just kidding.
We don't endorse.
We love you.
We love you, Catholics.
Of course we do. But yeah. So no, I was born there. I was born into it. And my parents, they were not. They were first generation Christians.
Same here.
They were not. They were into it. They met and. You know, they kind of started off.
Did they meet at college?
No, okay. I think they, you know, now that I think about it, they met, they both came from military families. They were both, my dad was in the Air Force, my mom's dad was in the Air Force.
Got it.
My dad's dad was in the Air Force. So I come from an Air Force family.
Nice.
And they met on one of the bases. And I think they met, dated 3 or 6 months later, they were married.
That's military.
Things happened a lot faster back in the day.
Well, in military too, I think.
Yeah, military time. But no, so no, I was definitely brought up in it. I was, for lack of a better word, baptized from the moment I was born.
For sure,
100% into, and I feel like.
So you were born on a Wednesday in the nursery on Sunday.
That kind of thing, 100%.
Absolutely.
100%. So yeah, but speaking back to the balance is which always cracks me up, because everybody preaches about balance and how you got to balance your family and religion but the two biggest things that I always found struggled within our religion was finances and health.
Huge.
Nobody, and the people that taught about finances.
Tom Kimmel. Let's just say his name.
Yeah.
So this guy taught a class called Personal Finance.
You couldn't graduate without taking this class.
Yes, and I never understood it. I feel like I took it twice. I know for sure at least I took it once.
Oh, for sure, we had to take it. Yeah, Finance 1 and 2.
I never got it. I never knew I could never figure it out.
Yeah.
And here's why. I don't know if he's out or still serving, but he went away for a Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
The guy that was teaching me how to run my finances and at some point supposed to run a family off of how he taught me, and run a church off of how he taught me, and run a ministry off of how he taught me, he's in prison for a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. Yep.
That's how skewed that shit is.
Yeah, it is.
And like you said, fitness, like who inside a religious circle anywhere ever at any time, and this is no offense to John because he's a standout for sure, but aside from him, who in your life did you encounter inside that religion that was like, hey, let's go to the gym, let's do this, let's do that?
No.
Nothing. There's nothing.
Not once.
Well, that's not true.
What? I'll take that back.
Okay.
I'll take that back. I don't know who you were thinking of. There was.
Let's see if it's the same guy.
There was one guy.
Was it at college?
Yes. There was one guy who actually got it. Was into it. Mike. For me, it was Labugan.
Yeah, but okay, but he was somewhat of an authority figure.
Yeah. Are you talking about like higher up?
No, Cassett is what I'm saying. But Cassett only. But that was only like, okay. So when you were a freshman, they had this. I feel like what we were a part of was very. The two words to describe it best were 1950s ideology.
Yes.
Which is why we all wore suits and ties, and all the girls wore dresses, and we never wore shorts. Shorts was actually shorts was actually against the rules, by the way. You weren't allowed to wear shorts, at least
only inside the gym. You couldn't wear them going to the gym.
Yeah, literally, you had to change. Oh my God!
You had to wear windbreakers over your shorts to the gym, but once you got into the gym in front of hundreds of people, you could take your pants off.
Then you're good.
Thumbs up. Great idea.
Yes, Phenomenal. Take your pants off.
Take your
that
pants
might
off.
actually be the tagline. I don't know. I'm toying with a few different ones.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So
I forgot about Cassidy. Oh my god.
Yeah. So, but it was 1950s and it was militaristic. That's what they wanted. Like, make your bed. Get up at a certain time. We're gonna come turn the lights on. And then as a freshman, were we freshmen the same year?
Yes, we were.
Okay. So as a freshman, this guy would yank us out of bed, and I mean, 200 kids.
Yeah, usually it was a whole Rice dormitory. So yeah.
Damn. So, yank us all out of bed at, like, I don't know, some ungodly hour.
It was like 6.
Yeah, well, it's
5:45.
But
no, it is when you're working a third shift.
When you're working a third shift and you never went to sleep or whatever it is, there was no regulation of, like you said, your fitness or your diet. It was literally impossible. So, I feel like we had weights towards the end of the gym.
Weights?
Did we have weights at the gym?
They did. They actually, and I will put this plug in there. Nobody ever used them, except for the guys who somehow never had to work. There was like 5 of them.
5 PKs.
Yeah.
I know who they are.
Yeah. But no, they did bring in a gym. They did have.
Don't worry, they won't watch this podcast.
Yeah, right. They did have a gym there, but there was no focus on it. It was like if you were a rebel and didn't really do anything on Saturdays, and you got back before 10 p.m., then maybe you went and hit the gym. But
one day of the week.
One day of the week. There was no focus. No focus on it
there
whatsoever.
couldn't be.
Really.
So let's break down a schedule. We went to Hiles-Anderson College in Crown Point, Indiana, on Burr Street, and our schedule. Well, you do yours. I'll do my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the busiest I ever got was I was working on ground staff, and I was also working a second shift job. We were working the same place, I think, then. So it'd be my senior year. I was working a second shift job, and I feel like I was, each semester I was taking minimum 18 credits. So a full load of classes. I would be up because I had to work on grounds at 6 something. We weren't roommates in my senior year, no. I would get up at sometime around 6. I'd go to work on grounds. Keep in mind, this is Indiana in the middle of winter usually, so I'm shoveling snow at 6 in the morning. That's how I start my day for like half an hour. I'm supposed to work for a full hour, but I only worked half hour. And then, what did I make? Like $4 an hour or something? It was hilarious what you made. It's like prison pay, I think.
Yeah.
It can't be far off. We don't have Jamie to do research, but it's plenty. There's not plenty.
Plug for Joe Rogan's podcast.
JRE, have me on, Joe. So I get up at 6. I do that. Run back to my room. Shower real quick. Go to class. Class. Chapel class. I feel like there's a class after chapel. But until like 12 or 1 was when you'd be done with your day of classes in chapel and getting your face ripped off because you weren't perfect. And so you do that, and then I was dating at the time. Senior year, I was engaged at some point halfway through the year. So I had to have time for my fiance. So I'd spend some time with her, and then I'd go to work, and I'd work until, geez, dude, that was the shitty second shift.
It was a late one.
Till midnight, and then sometimes we'd have OT.
Well, keep in mind, just to kind of preface
and commute.
Yeah, really the big thing was the commute because there was
an hour, right?
Yeah, I mean we're talking, especially in the wintertime. We're driving to towards Chicago, which doesn't seem bad. It's like maybe 30 minutes away if as the crow flies. But with traffic and everything like that, it's for sure. So yeah, that was a solid schedule.
Yeah, so that, and so what I left out is I'm in college. I have to study for shit. I have papers to write. When do you do that?
Yep.
The day I just laid out for you literally has no time to do that. So you know when I did that? At 2 and 3 in the morning when I was back in my dorm and I couldn't go do it in the room because it was lights out, but the lights were on in the hallway. So I'd sit in the hallway on my computer or writing things on my notepad to study for the test the next day. Yep. I want to say average was close to about 4 hours of sleep. And I'm not coming at that like, I know if you know me, I'm all about that hustle shit. Like, that's cool. But I'm not coming at it from that angle. I'm coming at it from the angle of, that was hard. That was not fun. That was not easy. It was very difficult. So, I don't know how I got into all that, but that's my schedule. Give me your schedule.
Yeah. No, mine was very similar. Yeah. When we, I think my sophomore year is really when it started. My freshman year was kind of chill because I worked my ass off that summer to help pay for the first semester. So
you could have been in the gym, asshole.
Yeah, I could have been. My fault. But then again, like it was never even a priority. I was just like,
and who was going to push you
up to that point though? I wasn't in terrible shape. I mean, if I look back at my college pictures of my freshman year, and I'm like,
I was looking good.
I would date that guy.
Hell yeah. I have yet to get back to the weight that I was.
No.
Who sent? Were you? We had a group chat the other day. Someone
sent it was like in the pew or the one around the Christmas tree.
I don't remember which one it was, but someone sent a picture, and I was like, oh my god, my face.
Yeah.
Not just age.
And I don't know. I don't even know if I'll ever get back down there.
Yeah,
because that was a terrible schedule.
Yes.
But no, my schedule was the same. And what he didn't also put in there is that you also had to find 3 hours a day on top of doing all your other stuff. You know, you had to have a walk with God.
Oh, of course.
You know what I
didn't
mean?
put it in there. Let me tell you why.
Didn't happen. No,
I wasn't reading the book.
But if you were supposed to,
yeah.
And it's like, when were you supposed to do that? You're supposed to spend an hour a day, and there's literally the schedule they had laid out for what should have happened was about a 32 to 36 hour day.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And you literally had 24, which you had to get sleep. Yeah. And this is literally this schedule, even though it wasn't the same activities. This schedule was Monday through Sunday.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Sunday, if you were Christian, and I was there, I was full bore.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking getting back from night bus, 11, 12 o'clock.
So let's break that down a little bit. So, give me your weekday schedule first, though.
So weekday schedule, 5:45 up, shower.
You were a dorm soup then?
Junior and senior year I was.
Okay.
Or second part of junior, I forget. It was a while back, but yeah, I was a dorm soup.
Yep.
I worked on staff there, and I taught classes. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
No, but yes, 5:45, 6 o'clock, and then you had your first, and then it was getting everything ready for the day, and it was classes.
Hey, if you're in dorm soup status, you're also going through every room on your dorm floor, 20 rooms, waking all the guys up,
making sure beds are made, and making sure everything was up to par in case somebody important walked through.
Yep.
And then it was classes. I think I was able to max out because I wanted to try to get done as soon as possible.
Hell yeah.
And make sure I did finish within the 4 years. So I was averaging between 20 and 22 credits a semester. And did that, and again, that was all the way up until, like you said, class, chapel, 5 minutes of lunch, class, and then we had to leave by like 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, we were gone.
And then from then, it was a lot of times, if you were in the wintertime, you weren't back till 1, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, too easily.
Easily.
Yeah.
And then after that, obviously, you had to find time for papers.
And then sometimes here's the problem, but here's the thing: the real world would collide with I'm going to say it now, our cult that we were in, the religion we were a part of. The real world would collide with that so often. Your boss would say, "Hey, we need." I don't think. Yeah, it happened in NCS like a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
NCS National Consolidation Services.
Yeah,
it's where we worked.
It's a cool place.
Yeah, it was. It was a good job. But the real world would collide. And sometimes our boss Wayne would be like, "Hey, I need you to stay overtime tonight." Cool, but I have to be up at 5:40. I have to be up at 6. I have papers. I have this and that. Sure, I'll stay. I need the money.
Yeah.
So I'll stay and I'll just sleep less.
Yep.
There's that. There's, hey, you need to come in on Saturday, which was a big no-no.
Oof.
So let's speak to the weekend, not the singer. So on the weekend, if you were, like you said, full bore, if you were all in, the weekend consisted of all day on Saturday being in a not so nice area of Chicago for many of us. And I mean all day, like we'd have a meeting in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed. I don't know how I stayed away for those meetings. I definitely nodded off because it was the same meeting. Like, go out and talk people into coming to church. Tell you what, if they don't want to come, tell them we're going to give them a goldfish or a pizza or a PlayStation or whatever. So many times people would tell me those are bribes, and I would find all these ways to excuse them. They were bribes.
100%.
Like, there's no way they were anything else. Anyway, so Saturday morning you have your meetings, then you take that hour drive to Chicago. And then usually it's cold as fuck because you're there during the winter. You take the hour drive and you spend all day there. And I mean some days until 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock.
Easily, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you do that all day. And what you're doing all day is you're knocking on doors, the same doors that you knocked on the week before in many cases. And you're inviting people to get up way too early the next morning to drive an hour to come listen to someone scream about how they're a sinner and then drive back another hour and feel like a piece of shit the rest of the day. That's what you're inviting them to do. You're just breaking that down.
Yeah.
So you do that all day, and I mean all day. Well, not true. I watched a lot of pirated movies at Ricky's house. So a lot of us slacked off. We would say we're there all day, but that's true. Like,
Safe houses.
Yeah. You had 2 or 3 houses on your bus route. Because we would pick people up on the bus on Sunday. You had 2 or 3 houses generally where you knew like you could get away for a little bit. And nothing devious in reality. You'd be watching a movie that was unsanctioned or against the rules that could get you kicked out, but it's a fucking movie, like whatever. So And you could hang out, you could chill with these people. They would feed you tons of delicious Mexican food. It was amazing. So, anyways, all that to say, you would spend all day in Chicago.
Yep.
And then you'd get back late, 8 or 9. If you got lucky, you might get to spend some time with your fiance or your girlfriend, your significant other, for an hour or two maybe, after you've been literally beating the streets most of the day and you're tired. And she's like, why won't, and I'm not saying this is anyone in specific, I'm just saying, like, why won't you pay attention to me? Like, babe, I am so tired. Like, well, this is our only time to see each other. I'm sorry. I'm tired as fuck. Anyways, that was your day on Saturday.
Yep.
At least to my knowledge. And then Sunday, same thing. You're up even earlier on Sunday. Super early.
He had to get a bus.
He had to get a bus. They rented buses, leased buses, rented, I don't know. Every Sunday you had to be up early to go get a bus. Super cold. You'd try to get something for breakfast. Generally no breakfast until you got to the bus route. And if you had money for McDonald's, then you would buy breakfast from McDonald's. Then you'd get there and you'd go knock on doors. Not only, think about this. Not only were we getting people out of bed on Sunday morning, like, hey, wake up, it's time to go to church. I would do runs before the bus got there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To make sure that they're up.
They were up and ready. Yeah, it's about a half hour to 40 minutes before the bus even came around.
What assholes! It's Sunday morning. Let me sleep.
Yeah.
No, I'm not coming to church today. Come on, man. I remember talking so many people into coming to church that didn't want to be there, and then we would wonder why kids would get violent.
Yeah.
Or why kids would
get
be
them
upset.
all jacked up on sugar on the bus.
Yeah. But they didn't want to come anyways.
No.
You know? Damn. And so you would do that. You get them to church. You do the church thing. You'd hopefully not have any fights on Willow Court. Hopefully everything went well.
Larry.
And then...
Sorry, inside joke. So that won't apply to anybody unless they... That will not apply to...
Someone will watch this who either knows Larry or has a Larry or has known a Larry. There's a Larry in every church.
Yeah.
And we had several. Jaime was a Larry.
Mike.
That was something way off.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're
some
not...
people that genuinely just should not have been brought to church.
Yeah.
I love them.
Oh yeah, and we're not trying to be
lawsuit
demeaning.
waiting to
It's just yeah, exactly. It just was very unwise.
Yeah.
Many of the practices that we
great.
did were unwise. Yeah,
great.
it was a good time. At any rate, you do the Sunday morning thing. You'd bring them back to Chicago. So let me lay it out. You're back in Chicago, right? But you've got to go back for Sunday night church because you got to see God twice today, or the man of God. So you got to go back, but you also have people that want to, for whatever reason, they also want to come back to church. So you wait there for like 3 hours, 2 hours after you drop everyone off, and then you come. Then you go do more pickups, and you bring them back. So they come back to church. Now they're back at church. Then you come back. Then after church, you got to drive them all back to Chicago.
Yeah.
And that's your weekend.
I'm exhausted just talking
about it. Like I'm like, oh my god! Like it was a rigorous schedule to say the very least. At any rate, I don't want to drag on too long. I don't know how much time you have left.
Oh no,
so
I'm good.
Okay,
no, I'm good. Yeah,
all right.
Let's go.
So let's just speak to a little bit of that. Like I've talked a lot about chaos. So you tell me something from the weekend that maybe I've left out or that kind of stood out. Like what's mind-boggling to me is that going through I can't say for 4 years because the last year was on Stuart Mason's route and no one did shit on that route, which is why we were there.
For sure.
But the guy did spell his name right though. The thing that boggles my mind now is that for 3 years, and I would have gone 4. I didn't stop doing what I was doing because I thought it was wrong. I was just tired and I was over it. For 3 years, I did this and did not. There was nothing wrong. I was tired. I was sick all the time.
Help, yeah.
I was tired. I was sick. I was hungry. I was not a happy person. And not just for myself, but like how it was affecting others. These people I was bringing to church. Like, I never saw anything wrong with any of that.
Yeah.
Not once did I stop and think and say, what is this?
We weren't supposed to think.
You weren't allowed to.
No, it was just due. I remember, I will say that, and I used his name once, I won't use it again just in case he's not cool with it, but my bus captain, when I was brought up, I remember asking him, he was actually the one guy.
I remember that.
The one guy that I tied to that got me through college and I attribute a lot. Like, he kept me sane. It could have gone very wrong. I could have come out of it a lot worse.
Oh, for sure.
A lot worse, and been super bitter. I look back on it, and most of it was a waste, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I look back and I say, it was an experience that at least it changed me, and it gave me a perspective of now I can kind of see everything full circle. I wasn't like super on the left where it's like, oh, all religion, but at the same time it brought me back where now everything was all religion. So now it kind of being on the opposite side, or kind of in the middle, it kind of gives you that full perspective. And you can kind of, pick and choose the bad with what you want. And if you're still in it, hey, do you? This isn't like, hey, get out of IFB.
Well, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, you're good.
I want to say this because this is something that I haven't said on the podcast yet, and I'm sure I'll repeat it with different guests. I am happy for anyone who is happy.
For sure.
And if your happiness, part of it comes from belief in God, great.
Yep.
If you're happy and you're not shoving God down someone's throat, and you're not constantly inviting someone to your church, I'm not saying that you can't, that's fine. But if you're happy and you feel like God, church, religion somehow is attributing to that happiness, good. And no, I'm not pandering, I'm just saying good for you. That's great.
No, for sure.
I'm happy for you. That's awesome. So this podcast, we're going to talk about all kinds of things, and religion's going to come up a lot, and culture going to come up a lot. And I don't say that to anything that I would consider a cult. If you're in a cult and you're happy, great. No. You need to wake up. It's not easy. It's very hard. We've done it, okay? But if you're worshiping God in a way that is productive for you and it makes you feel better, great. Yeah. I'm thrilled for you. I have this conversation at least once a week with someone where they're like, dude, I still go to church, though. I'm like, so?
Yeah,
that's great. Well, I still believe in God. Awesome. Good. I'm glad for you. That's great. Yeah. And I think that's what's the beautiful thing about humanity that gets drowned out by social media and negativity and what's going on in the world and politics. And I'm not throwing that all away. I'm just saying there's a lot of good, happy people out there, and we're not making the noise. The negative people are. Yeah. So, sorry.
No. But what you said is a good point, though, because people think we're not out there saying don't go to church. We're not out there saying, trying to pull people away, and I think a lot of people do that.
Oh, yeah.
So having the perspective we have, it gave you the exact perspective that you just said. You now have the freedom to say, hey, be who you want to be. If going to church makes you a better person, if believing a certain way makes you a better person, phenomenal.
Great.
But if you're doing it just to fit in, but in the back of your mind, like something just does not feel right, chances are there's something not right.
Yeah.
And not to say that I was brought up great. I had a great upbringing.
I would not change that.
No, for sure. So I'm not coming from a perspective of I was like you. The first podcast that you had done, you guys brought up physical abuse.
Yeah, what my mother went through. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I had the privilege of being brought up in a home where I never experienced any of that.
Yep.
I was always loved. I was always cared for. So I'm not coming out of something negative, looking back and saying I want to change it. As far as home life goes. My home life directly related to the church that we went to.
Yep.
The church that we went to directly related to the college that we went to.
Oh, yeah.
So think of it like a Christian assembly line. You got your Bible, you got your shirt and tie, you got your suit, you got on the little train, you went to your kindergarten through K-12 in a Christian school. From there, you got shipped off to Hiles. That's where you went. If you said any other college, it was frowned upon. Yeah. And I do mean any other college. I remember I got up and gave my graduation speech. And I said Pensacola.
Oh, you can't say that.
I said Pensacola, and
why did you, and they didn't,
because that's where I wanted to go.
And you lived through that.
Yeah.
They didn't stone you.
No, and I remember, and I love you if you're watching this, or Todd if you're watching this. Don't take this in a negative way. But behind me, swear to God, behind me when I said that, my pastor said, "We'll be praying for you."
Oh shit!
At my graduation speech. At my graduation speech.
That's awesome, dude.
Those were the words I heard. Not like congratulations, not like, hey man, go out there and crush it, be a better person.
Oh,
but it was, we'll pray for you. Now keep in mind, I was 17. Well, you can't keep in mind because I didn't say it yet. So keep this in mind now. I was 17 and legally I could not sign any papers. So I wasn't, let me put it this way, I wasn't forced to go to Hiles Anderson, but I could not go anywhere else. If you catch the underlying meaning to that, because I couldn't sign any papers, I couldn't go anywhere. So those were my options.
Yep.
Now, what I did get from college, I got a phenomenal wife, and for that, and not everybody can say that. Sorry, bud. I love you.
No, dude,
we've been through it all.
It's all good, dude.
We've been through it all.
It's all good.
But that's one thing, like I will say, if I got anything from college, is awesome, I got to marry. I got a great wife.
Yep. And so there's a lot of friends of mine and people that have gone through this kind of thing that That's what it is. And it's, to me, your marriage and you know, our friends Gavin and Liz and only a handful of others. It's been a beautiful thing for me to see you guys transition from, and I wouldn't say to an extreme, but from an extreme.
Sure. Coming
from this place where, like, you can't do this and you can't listen to that and you can't go here and you can't watch this and you can't eat that and you can't smoke this and you can't smoke anything and you can't drink that. Like, coming from all of that to, no, you know what, we're gonna do what's best for us, and not necessarily just what feels good,
right?
But what it makes our life better. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, or you decided you found a Bible verse to take out of context that condemns it,
yep,
cool. We're out though, like, we're done, and
yep.
I've really enjoyed seeing that. To speak to the decision to go to college, the thing that I want to keep in mind, others watching that may or may not know this, I feel like a lot of you will, but I just want to speak to it. When he's saying other colleges, he's not talking about Harvard or University of North Carolina or like all these. I don't mean like big names. I'm just thinking of names we could think of.
Yeah.
Like, he's not talking about any kind of tech school or anything like that. He's talking about a short list of maybe at that time, maybe 10 colleges. I don't think it could have been more than 5.
If that.
Let's say 5 to 10 colleges that all taught the exact same thing.
Yep.
And I'm not saying there weren't anomalies here and there. Like, there's Grace Baptist in Michigan that's definitely a little bit different, more countryized, I would say. But like, it was all the same thing. They all went to the same conferences.
Yep.
They all had the same guest speakers who taught the same, literally word for word, the same exact messages when they would come and preach and speak to us, give lectures and whatnot. So John's not saying, you know, I only had a choice of one college and it was completely different from all these other options.
Sure. That's good. Yeah.
No, it was the other colleges, at least initially, were carbon copies of Hyles-Anderson College.
Yep.
Jack Hyles wrote a book called the Hyles Church Manual. It was a manual to tell you how to run your church.
Yep.
Like, so John's not saying, like, you know, I should have had options that were different.
Yeah.
No, you should have at least had options that were the same.
Yeah.
You didn't even have that. And I remember very vividly, I don't know I can't say dating because I wasn't allowed to date at all in high school. But the girl that I really crushed on in high school, and it was a known thing that we, you know, really liked each other. We passed notes, which we actually got in trouble for at
shame.
one point. Yeah, for shame indeed. But she was the girl that I wanted. Like, that was it. Like, I was happy to, like, and I know in high school you don't know what you want and all that shit, but that's who I wanted. And I can't even say broke up, but like, I legit told her when I found out she wasn't going to go to Hyles-Anderson College that we couldn't see each other anymore because she was going to be worldly and I loved Jesus. Sorry, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't compute. To this day, I look back, and I don't regret. Like, I am happy. I'm a happy person. But like, looking back, it's like, stupid.
Yeah.
What in the world? Because you didn't want to go to the brainwashed university that I went to. You're a bad person? No, I'm not necessarily bad, but definitely stupid for that.
Yeah.
At any rate, Hyles-Anderson was definitely billed for many years, and I would say until the more recent Scott episode, who's serving time in federal penitentiary, I would say up until that point, for many teenagers, it was the only option.
It is. And I know a lot of people out there, and I know, and looking back, I don't have, people who went there, let me put it this way. When I graduated with my master's from that college, I was asked if I would stay on and actually do a position. Now, keep in mind, I will say this, that going to college, I abided by the rules because I knew what the rules were. Yep. So I'm not complaining about the rules. I'm not complaining with what they had to do with. I agreed to go there. After my first year, it was a choice to go back.
Absolutely.
I was then of age. I could make my own decisions.
Yep.
Keep in mind, though, that there was really no... There were other options, but there were no other options. I know that to some people that won't make sense. But when you're brought up how we were brought up, there really was nothing. Because you were just... It was how you were raised. You were conditioned... This is what you were going to be. You were either going to be a youth pastor, a missionary, or a pastor. Those were your 3. If you did not do those things, then you were made to feel like
you're a failure.
If you did not hit the altar and re-agree or resubmit to be a pastor, a youth pastor, or something like that. At every youth conference, it was looked down upon. It was like, what's wrong with this?
Yeah.
And the sad thing is many families in the churches were conditioned to say, if your child is not going this route, there's something wrong with your home. Yeah. Which is absolute bull.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Because the people that are paying for these guys to drive these new Cadillacs and all this bullshit, those are the guys that are out there putting in the work, building the families, the type of families that honestly everybody in that church should be aspiring to. Yep. It's just the way it was. And so yes, it was my choice to go back. I will say this: when I graduated, I was asked by, and I won't say his name, it's not important. Too many names I could drop. But no, he's still good. He's out there. He's probably one of the few guys I would say that was true to who he actually was. And who you saw is what you got. Yep. His marriage, his life, and this guy's been through it with his last name. And so if that doesn't give it away, you don't need to know. But they asked me if I would stay on and work, and I said, there's no way I could. Because then at that point, I would be being paid. And it was just, I did not believe what they had lined out.
And what you were
teaching. The rule book was not principles by which I wanted to live my life.
Exactly.
If my wife wanted to wear pants, she could wear pants. If she didn't want to wear nylons to church, legit, look it up.
No, it was in the rule book. It's a rule.
Like, stuff like that. Like, if I wanted to go to a movie, and it's not like we were watching Rated X. If I wanted to go watch a PG-13 movie because it had great action, right? That's stuff that I couldn't do. So once I was able to make the decision, I said, dude, honestly, I can't because I do not line up with a lot of where you are. Yep. And so I wanted to be true and honest to it and to who I was and not just force myself into a mold. And that was a breaking point for me when I saw that. I was like, dude, there's no way. This is so contradictory because one of the biggest things I hate about how we were brought up was this duplicity.
Oh my God.
Was the duplicity. Yeah. I know you can talk about it too, but like you would have preachers preach like, you know, you can't go to the movies, but those same movies, they would bring you to their home. And I remember one preacher in specific was, well, the reason it's okay is because I can control it. If you have to control something or feel that way, then you don't need to have it in your home.
Then it needs to not
either
be
do
present.
it or don't do it.
Yeah.
But they taught that duplicity, and it's just like, what is this? And so that's kind of, I was like, look, if I want to go to the movies, I'm going to go to the movies. Yeah. And for a lot of people out there, they're like, really, movies?
Movies? Oh my God, the movies.
100%, it was a big deal. That was
I don't know if anyone ever got expelled for the movies, but you got in huge trouble if you got caught going to the movies.
Yeah, it's hard to get expelled. I don't know if we want to. There's some
stories.
No,
this is a good one. No,
there's some stories we can tell.
No one's gonna. I'll drop names, but it's not a bad one. So I remember. I don't know where he got it, but I remember Gavin had a copy of The Last Samurai.
Oh no!
And I love that movie, by the way. But he had a copy, and there's so many funny elements for me to this story, and I'll make it quick. But Gavin had a copy of The Last Samurai, and we wanted to watch it so bad. But again, you have to be careful. If you watch it in your dorm room, the right person walks in, not an authority figure, but snitching is huge. Like, you're a snitch, you're a good person. Like that's what they want you to be. So we watched it. I can't remember. I think the first half we watched. Okay, the first half we watched in Gavin's car. I think did he have the Ion yet? No, he had that little green Saturn. Yeah. So we watched it in Gavin's car the first half, and then of course my computer died because we're watching it on a computer. Anyways, and then we went to Burger King, which was not, I don't know why we were so close to the college. Yeah. Burger King right close to the college, plug my computer in, and watch the rest of it. How weird and strange would it be to walk into a Burger King and see these two guys in shirts and ties watching a movie? Like, I don't think we
huddled around the screen.
Yeah. And here's the best part. Gavin, I'm not trying to rip him a new one. We love this guy. Gavin felt so bad for watching it that he wanted to turn us in to the college authorities for watching a movie. Yeah. There's a split second of nudity in that movie. Barely. And I don't care about that shit now anymore, but like that's the whole crux. Is like, oh, it's nudity, that's bad. Like, and it just boggles my mind looking back at that. And again, I'm not trying to be a dick to Gavin. I'm just saying, like, put yourself in our shoes, and whether you've gone through this or not, like, put yourself in our shoes and think, how ridiculous is that? That you just trying to watch the movie was enough. Yeah. But then to add to it, like, oh, I feel so bad. You feel bad for what? For what do you feel bad for? And I've never been a good salesman, but somehow I talked Gavin out of turning us in for that.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I actually did turn someone in for that. Because, and I will say, I love you guys. Our rice tooth, was it? God,
Oh,
forgive me. Rice 215,
I'll never
guys.
forget.
If you're out there, one's a missionary. I love you. You're awesome. Your family's great, and I mean that. Todd, Todd was there.
Todd, Scott, you.
Yep.
Josh Bryan,
and
I'm gonna feel like a shithead if
no.
we can't remember the other guy.
No. Who was it? Because there was only one. Because we brought Nate Morrison in.
Okay.
Second semester.
Okay.
But I don't remember who was before that. I know it was Scott. I think there was only 5 of us. Ben Morgan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Todd, Scott, Josh, me. Yeah, that was it for them.
Yeah.
Because one of them, yeah. But anyways, I remember turning somebody in for that. And what the crazy thing is, though, is that a lot of times what people thought was conviction from the Holy Spirit was nothing more than people just guilt tripping you
100% guilt.
into trying to turn people in for stuff.
Yeah.
Every staff member had the same movies that guys were watching in their dormitories.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, here's a good ironic thing about on that level. So there's a genre of music called Southern Gospel, which a lot of people loathe, and I get that, and that's fine, because it's a combination of Christian contemporary music and country, really. That's the best way to describe it, okay? So it's like Phillips, Craig and Dean meets Toby Keith or something. It's pretty... Yeah. I love it to this day for some weird reason. At any rate, a lot of them are from the Midwest or that area, so they would have local concerts.
Yeah.
And high-ranking staff members would go to these concerts.
Yes.
And then people who were, brave enough, students who were brave enough to venture out would also go and would see these guys who preached against this music and who... would absolutely get you in trouble if they caught you with one of these CDs. They were there at the concert. I'll never forget that. That one, and then another one. I borrowed a staff member's car for a date. I don't know how that worked out. Oh, whatever. I was using a staff member's Explorer for a date with my then girlfriend and I feel like my mom. Yeah, my mom was. You had to have a chaperone. Mm-hmm. You can't just go out on your own because you will have a child within 24 hours. Like that's just
the 9 months shrinks down to 20.
Real quick.
Things happen quick in that type of setting.
For sure. So we went and I found now. Let me set the stage. This guy had previously and probably currently still does preached against country music because it is demonic. And if you look close at some of the labels, you will see a goat's head, and that means they're the devil.
Yes.
Found a Shania Twain CD in his car. I'll never forget that moment because I feel like we were dating, so I was a sophomore, at least maybe a junior. I was like, the hell is this? Like, this ain't right. So there's just, like you said, it's the duplicity of it all, because you can't live and exist in the real world and really not believe, but really like practice those things.
You can't.
It doesn't work out.
It's not applicable, and it's not realistic.
And if you are, God, what a terrible life. You know what I mean?
They're miserable.
Like, yeah, you can't be. I'm
like,
sorry.
I'll say it because I can, and anybody, and nobody's gonna. I don't care. People, I don't get offended. So if you have comments and you want to say stuff, feel free. I do not get offended.
Again, this is the internet, so
feel free to keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah. But anyways. Yeah. So the reason I think I feel so passionate about this is because if for all practical purposes, other than becoming a pastor or a youth pastor, I kind of made it all the way through the ranks.
You did. Mm-hmm.
With going through college, which started out kind of rough. And then by the time I ended for my master's, I actually taught class.
That's right.
At this college.
Yep.
For a full year, I taught class. And the more I taught, here's the funny thing is that the more I started actually studying the Bible for myself, and actually started reading it and teaching the class, I'm like, dude, nobody here does this. Nobody, and I will say it again, nobody lives like that. Nobody raised their kids that way. Nobody lives this type of lifestyle. Nobody did it.
Nope.
And I was like, what's the point? Like, why are we teaching? Why is it so hard that we teach people that we know are going to go out and we hope a few of them continue on doing exactly what they were taught? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So that's why I can speak to it more, is just for the fact that I actually went all the way up through it.
Yeah.
I got the 4 years. I did the master's.
You went into ministry.
And the more I look back on it, I really don't know why I did it. I remember wanting to quit the first year into the master's. I was like, this is a absolute waste.
Yeah.
But my mom actually convinced me to finish. She's like, if nothing else, just do it so you can say you can finish it.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
just like your first 4 years.
Yeah, I have a BS degree and I have a master's degree.
Real quick, that college is not accredited.
No, because who needs the world's approval?
Yeah, that's exactly. Does that make any sense?
Who needs the world's approval? Nobody looks at that. Come on,
but that was the ideology that we came up through. Like, oh, we don't need the world to tell us what to do.
Yeah.
And then when you get out in the world, you're like, huh? I like it out here. It's nice.
And the real reason that they weren't accredited is because then there were certain things, that guidelines that had to be applied, and they just that the separation of church and state, which is just a gay way of saying, if you're gay, whatever. I don't even give a fuck right now. It was just a lame way of saying that we didn't want the influence, but in reality, it was just they wanted to be able to control it and have 100% control over everything that went on. They did towards the end try to get accredited.
I heard
there was like certain. I was there when they were doing it, and it just never worked out because they wanted a certain percentage because you had to pay to be accredited, and you had to be under this umbrella. And they just didn't do it. But yeah, so it's unaccredited, and people can say it is what it is, and it's just like, but they literally are worthless degrees.
It's a worthless degree.
You pay for the experience, and like I said, I got a phenomenal wife that I wouldn't trade for anything for the world. So that's what I got for my 6 years of putting it in, putting in the work. That's what I got. So it was definitely worth it. But educational wise and life applicable wise,
the thing with the education is like they got a little bit more in depth to what we learned in Sunday school, but it was the same shit. It was the same stories. It was just you had to read it in Greek, or you had to write a report about it. Like, dude, I've been taught this since I was. Yeah, and I think since I couldn't even read or write.
It was just. I think it was just more redundant.
Absolutely redundant. Like, well, think about church ed.
Yeah.
Until the church education was a class that you had to take every semester.
8 semesters.
And they did change it, but initially it was literally the same exact class. They taught you had the same notes, you had the same book, and you were paying for it again.
Yep.
Even though they were teaching you the same stuff.
Yep. You could literally could save if you saved your tests.
Yeah.
You could literally pass it.
Yeah, easily.
Just turning it in again.
And that's how little lazy number 1 I was, and how little number 2 I studied, because I would cheat on every test. I suck at that shit.
It's because it was more lifted up as not educational as it was spiritual.
Sure.
You know, and they really pushed that aspect of it, which in reality, if you go ahead and look back at a roster of teachers that taught there when we were there.
See how many of them were locked up.
And locked up or are no longer there because they said this is completely
bullshit.
Asinine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, are they still in the ministry? Sure, but they're going out doing it the way that they know, or the way that they want to.
Yeah.
And but again, while you're there, you're just taught like loyalty without question.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I kind of just referenced back. There was that one person that just kind of kept me kept me tied where I just didn't completely lose it.
Sanity.
Yeah, because I was like, man, I felt bad. I remember one instance. I felt super bad because I got back from our bus route like 7:30 because we had knocked on all the doors.
Too early,
and it didn't matter. A bunch of people got saved.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, but I'm
well, yeah. I mean, you know, beat them over the head.
Yeah, they'll pray.
But I remember him saying, I was like, dude, what difference does it make what time you get back if the work got done?
Yeah.
It's the first time I've heard anybody say, like, you mean I don't have to be out there till 11 o'clock?
Fry your brain,
from that, dude, I was blown away. From that point on, it was like, get there, do the work, get back, and have a good life. Like, and he's still married, still has a great family, and he's the man. So,
hell yeah.
But those people are very few and far between.
Very much so.
It's sad.
To speak to, like you said, like you had to be, I can't remember the phrase you, but something like positive, like you had to be positive, or you had the loyalty was built in.
Without question.
There was a rule, and I feel like I said this on the last podcast, but whatever. There was a rule in the rule book for a time that you could not speak negativity against a staff member without quite possibly being expelled. And keep in mind, like it's I understand, like if you haven't been a part of this, I'm not knocking you at all. Good for you, actually. But without being a part of it, I know it's difficult to grasp the mindset of, okay, so you got expelled. Great. This place was a shithole anyways. Right. But you didn't. But that wasn't part of your mindset. And more importantly, that wasn't a part of your pastor's mindset, your family's mindset, or your girlfriend's mindset.
Yeah, everybody who you know.
Exactly. Your whole circle is wrapped up in this shit. And so when you get expelled, it is life-altering.
It's pretty much like an excommunication.
Yeah, and if you're lucky, you get to come back, and then you come back, and you have this mark on you, basically.
Yep.
Like, yeah, that guy got expelled, though. He got expelled. Oh, shit, what did he do?
Yeah.
Dude, he was watching movies. Oh, who cares?
Yep.
You know, but that was the mentality of it all.
Yeah.
I do want to... I want to go back to 215.
No. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude. This guy...
Yes.
His room gotten so... I think somehow you were under the radar, it feels like, on most of that shit.
Yeah, it was kind of just like as a room. It was... Nobody in particular got singled out. It was just a room as a whole.
His room got disbanded
literally
They got in
closed down.
so much trouble. Not only did they get like put in different rooms, like
Yes.
Todd ended up in my room.
Yes.
They like the room was like quarantined.
And he's not exaggerating. They put tape over the door. Nobody was allowed in there. Yeah, our first semester, man.
amazing.
Our first semester. I don't know how we made it through, but there were some pretty outlandish like rumors. Like, we were we were a chill
You
room.
guys were chill.
But they were saying like we were pulling chicks up through our window. I'm like, if we were, did you think we'd be as mad as we were? Jeez. But it was some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
God,
And I remember Cassida had said that literally, and I will put me in quotes on this, there was a satanic spirit in that room.
I remember that.
And that is why they locked the doors and cordoned it up. When they redid that room, dude, they redid the carpet and they repainted the walls. I kid you not.
And to say something onto that, like, they never did maintenance and repair in these places at all. It was a shithole. So for them to put that much work, like,
for them to spend that money,
the devil was definitely in that room, or they were convinced.
They went out to Lake Beverly and got some holy water, sprinkled it in the paint, and then repainted that room to get rid of the spirit. And it was crazy. Like, and literally, nothing happened. The worst thing that happened, I think, curse words got said and movies got watched.
Yeah.
Literally. Now I'm like out of it, so I could care less if anybody knows what happened in there. But if there's any stories, I'd be the first person to tell you. But yeah, we literally got disbanded and had it taped off as if somebody had some type of spiritual STD. Where
that's good.
Where it was literally like, don't go in here, or you're gonna catch the spirit.
Yeah.
And they said that we were the downfall of the Rice dormitories. And one guy's a missionary. Everybody in that room is still married to this day, or they weren't married to begin with, and they're just not. But everybody else is out there doing their thing. One guy owns a business, is crushing it.
Yeah, he's
still married, has kids. One guy's a missionary. I've been married for 9 years, so to that.
Absolutely. But that just speaks to like how
ridiculousness,
how nutty that whole thing was, and you got to think about putting these guys. Like, we're 17, 18, 19 years old. Our hormones are raging.
Out of control.
And you're saying, and then towards the end, it was your freshman year, you couldn't date at all. It wasn't when we first got there, but like, there was, the rules on that shit was just nuts. Like, they really pushed you to date. It was just weird, because it was like, it was almost a hurry up and wait thing. Like, you got to find a wife, you got to date, you got to make this happen. But don't put a finger on her until after you're married.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, dude, doesn't
make any sense.
We didn't even talk about that. Oh my god,
I
completely forgot about it.
And that's another duplicitous thing, dude. I'm just saying, like, don't. And here's the thing. Who did I talk to? I'm not gonna throw a name out. I just wish. Oh, okay. No one that's watching this, I don't think would know, but he's gonna know who he is. I think he'll watch it. Good friend. But I said that to him one day. I said, like, look, like, and he was raised in the same kind of background. I'm real sure he didn't go to Howes Anderson, but just the whole like dating thing, like. You have to abstain until marriage, or I actually had a counselor at one point tell me, like, this is why your marriage is falling apart, is because you didn't wait to have sex until after you were married. So, like, okay, sure. Anyways, counselor, by the way, term we use very loosely, but lost my train of thought. I told a friend of mine, I said, yeah, but that doesn't work. You can't wait. It's just not going to happen. He said, you know what? I did it. And I'm happy, me and my wife, and they've been married for a minute. Like, me and my wife are happy. You know what? If it works for, again, it's the same thing I feel about God and religion. If it worked for you and you did it, great. But I'm here to say the way I'm built and the way I think a lot of people are built doesn't work out. And and again, this isn't to shame anyone or make anyone feel silly because they waited. Good for you. I'm just saying, like, the whole premise of you gotta date and find a wife to make you babies and cook you food and be this helpmeet, as they called it, like, just to support you. You gotta do all this. But again, do not, and I don't mean sex, I mean just touching. Yeah. Do not touch her. I remember I was on a date with a girl. We were on a hayride. That could have been such an amazing hayride, but it wasn't. I was on a date with a girl. We were on a hayride. First time I ever got touched on a date. And it wasn't touched like you're thinking, perverts. She held my arm because she almost fell off. And my world, like, there was like fireworks, dude. Just from her clutching my arm so she didn't fall off. Two things, fireworks, and then immediate, like, oh, I hope she doesn't tell. I hope no one saw. I hope I don't get in trouble because she clutched my elbow instead of falling and getting a concussion.
She grabbed your weenus. I think is what it was. And that's too close to the word penis.
That is close. It's a close second.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, we didn't really speak to that too much, I know, but that's just the craziness of all of it. Like putting us all in that the dormitory, the room, like, and expecting things to go well.
Yeah.
That I just don't understand. Like, you got a bunch of guys
demanding it to go.
Oh
well.
yeah, if you didn't go well, you went home.
It wasn't like, well, we hoped it would. It was like, no, it had to.
Yeah.
It had to, and
it
was never anybody's fault except for that.
The peon that got expelled.
Yeah, but what's crazy that you brought that up about you could literally be expelled for how you talked about a staff member who is flesh and blood like anybody else, and chances are was being a dick.
Yeah.
But you could, however, and I can list no less than 10 guys who actually had sex in chapel, in the sanctuary.
Yep.
Had sex in there, and you know who you are if you're watching this. And got expelled, but was allowed to come back the next semester, but the semester after, because you need a cooling down period.
Yeah.
You want people to forget what happened, but because of who you were, or because of if you gave enough money.
Sex.
Yeah, it was just sex.
You weren't saying bad things about a staff member. You were just committing the cardinal sin. It's not a big deal.
And what was sad is a lot of times it was the girls that got the worst reputation than the guys did.
Dude, always, like, and that goes across the board. That's not just where we went to college. That's that cult, and I believe like many cults alike. Like, it's puts him, like we said, putting a man on a pedestal, and then when the man does wrong, it's not really wrong. But if a girl does wrong, oh God, like shit hits the fan. She gets sent off to a home. She gets excommunicated. Yep. If she does try to come back, she's looked at as a whore, quite literally. Well, because she had sex. Like, what?
And that's the thing. They never. And I would like to know how many out there, if you can comment below, if you were raised like how we were raised, how many of your parents actually sat down and had the proper talk with you?
Oh no.
Like the proper talk, not birds and bees and using the pop-up books. I'm talking like sat down and said, you're gonna feel this way. This is what's gonna happen. This is what to expect, and this is how to properly handle it.
That's such a good point. No, and this isn't,
at least for me.
Yeah, no.
And I loved my parents, but
that's what I was about to say.
It was taboo to mention it.
Yeah, so that's the thing, and I think I spoke to this on the last podcast. Like you. And again, this isn't anything against my parents. It's their indoctrination comes to me. Like it's how I was raised, but it's how they were indoctrinated, and it's very similar. It's nearly a level playing field with your emotions and your mind and the way that you thought process and the lack of critical thinking, like I talked about before.
That's a good point.
So, yeah, and again, this is not across the board. We're not saying that no one's parents didn't do that, but like for Jon, we'd be surprised to hear that there are that you had a talk that made sense to your young mind. Yeah. Because like you said, sex in any way, shape, and form, is 100% taboo. Yeah. However, the caveat to that is when you're standing behind a pulpit and you have an audience, you can say all kinds of crazy shit, and that's okay.
And the things that they were preaching about, we had no idea what was going on because apart from feeling normal, like normal hormones that you go through, like it didn't make sense because they're like, dude, what are you talking about? Like nobody's actually had the conversation. So they were preaching to us, but they were preaching way over our heads.
Oh yeah, we had no
because
idea.
We're like, dude, our parents never did, our teachers never did, and it was never talked about.
No, we're never gonna get to it.
And
we're never gonna catch it.
People were just very uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Very uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And then in dating in college, you had, the dating with the purpose, the 5 stages of dating.
There's these guys, look, I don't like them, but they were smart at a certain time. They had a book for everything.
Yes.
They had references for everything, and they had Bible references that said, no, you have to do this because this verse in the Old Testament, the 1-2 verses down from where you have to stone your kids if they're disobedient and murder them. Yeah, we're not that one, but this one says this, so you got to do this thing. What the hell? Dude. So yeah, Dating with the Purpose was a book written by Jack Scopp, and yeah, you had to go, and there was like levels and stages. There was, oh man, I can't remember them. There was I think First Date was a stage for some reason, and then I know there was an I Like You and I Love You stage, and I don't remember the rest of them.
Yeah, there was a bunch.
Like 5, right?
Yeah, there was a bunch in between, like different stages, and you had to get counsel before they thought you were ready to move on to the next stage. Yes. Which, in retrospect, was genius because they created a market, owned the market, and sold product to get you to believe in that market. Because if you didn't follow the book, it wasn't going to work out. You were going to get divorced when it was over. Or you weren't going to make it at all, or you were going to mess up before.
Right.
So rather than giving actual dating advice, like, dude, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But you take people that were raised like that, and this is why I believe it's so prevalent, at least in the culture that we were brought up, in,
Good. I like that.
was that there was so much sexual tension,
Oh, so much.
That nobody knew what to do with it. So you took guys that by the time they were 13 or 14 had been in full swing of their hormones, had no idea what to do with them because they've been indoctrinated that if you had feelings, it was wrong. Like if you looked at a girl and got an erection, she was a whore and you were a pervert.
Absolutely. That is the absolute truth.
And the thing was, there was no gray area. It was an absolutism.
Yeah.
It was an absolutism. And so
I didn't think about that.
when you got to college, now you're putting everybody segregating, guys in one, girls in another, which is fine. I know a lot of colleges do that, whatever. But you have all that sexual tension, and nobody ever talked about it. The only time it got talked about was when people messed up. It was like, dude, people were there that hadn't touched, kissed, done anything in 17 years, and you're putting them in this situation as like a cauldron of just waiting for something bad to happen.
So you've got two elements there. You've got the element of, dating and like trying to find some way to not, to not mess up. Which, by the way, messing up starts with a brush of a shoulder or holding hands. Like, that's too much right there. So you have that, I can't think of the right word, tinderbox, just waiting to explode, quite literally. We all know what I'm talking about. And then you have on the other side where you're putting these guys, like, we're all like, oh, just fucking full on rage.
Yes.
And we're in a room with 3 other guys, and you expect us not to cause trouble?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
and I'm not saying this is just this cult. I'm saying there's other places
for sure
for this to occur. I'm just saying this was our experience. Like you really want to convince me that somehow this was a good idea.
Yeah,
I
not.
Don't comprehend it.
It's not, because when you get out in the real world, you honestly, and not to let me put it this way, you don't.
This isn't a politically correct.
I'm trying to think of how to word this because I know it's not. It's not, and I'm not worried about how to. I want it to make sense because people, when you're in it, it does not make sense. When you hear stuff like this and you're in it, you're thinking, what is wrong with that guy? You would the practical application that they applied to dating and marriage. No sex before marriage, no kissing, no touching.
Yes.
You would not apply that to anything else. You would not buy a home off Craigslist.
Exactly.
Right? You would not go, what is the first thing your dad taught you? Our parents taught us more about how to buy a car, and I love you guys, than how to actually approach a woman. Because, you got to look under the hood. You got to make sure the tires are new. Check out the engine. Does the ignition work? And the whole time I'm sitting there just thinking about sex, like, how does this even apply? Like, my gosh, like, I'm ready to go right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't teach you how to do with a woman. It's like, no, you date, you find out personality. And then it comes to find out, it's like, dude, they have completely different, you're completely different worlds apart.
Yeah.
Because she was trained not to, even though they said that she should please her husband. Right. They don't say hi. They taught the women how to. And the guys, it was like, it's
a shit show. It's a shit show with the guys. Like, it is an extreme depravity of knowledge when it comes to, and I don't just mean sexually, because sexually, you don't know any, like, there's nothing there. You're just, sex is just, here's sex, okay? Sex is up here on this shelf, all right? And then you're down here because you're still, you're a teenager, you're unmarried here. Mm-hmm. And when you get up to, can you see, you can't see, this is Pooh Bear. So Pooh Bear represents sex. That's actual, that's good. But that's what I'm saying is, like, there's levels. Like, until you get married, you don't get sex.
Yeah. And it's
not just sex. It's touching, it's hand-holding, it's all that. So you expect your marriage to, and again, there are people out there that it went well for, and I applaud them, because that is not easy. But you expect a marriage to go well, a union between two people that is supposed to last to their death. You expect it to go well, and you tell them, yeah, but don't touch that person until you're married.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It doesn't make sense.
But keep in mind, though, if you're in it, trust me, I know you have about 37 Bible verses to back it up.
For sure, yeah.
But, then we'll pull up the 37 Bible verses where people had like 15 wives. Okay, cool, let's run that route. Let's see how that goes. Yeah, and they have religions like that.
Yeah.
Where that's what they justify.
And then there's me. I mean, I engaged in sexual activity before I was married with my now ex-wife. Yeah, the end of the world. And my marriage failed. So I'm the poster child for, like, dude, if you hadn't messed around, as they like to say, because again, everything's generalities. There's speaking of generalities.
We've all seen it.
Yeah. But, like, what I'm getting at is, like, I'm a great poster child for you. If you want to beat someone up for, well, dude, if you hadn't messed up, then your marriage would have worked. And there's, I'm not going to get into them now, but there's reasons that it didn't work, and it had nothing to do with that. But again, say your piece if that's what you want. Like, that's fine. But that just and now I'm getting defensive. That's not good. But I'm just saying, it's mind-boggling. And there's been a few people that have commented and have seen the original podcast that are coming from the outside and saying, "Wow, this is mind-blowing." And for you, I'm glad for you to hear this because it's eye-opening. And for those of you that have been through this system, which has been the majority of my listenership, I am so grateful that that you're paying attention, and that whether you're in it or not, whether you're religious or not, whether you are slightly religious or you're in super deep, whatever stage you're at, I'm grateful you're listening, and I'm grateful you have an open mind. And even if you don't have an open mind, that's fine. Like I'm
really
just happy
is.
that you're listening. And the thing is, there's a point that you have to come to where you have to say, whether you're in it or outside of it, like, this shit is just nuts.
Yeah,
it's
there has
just
to be.
nuts.
Yeah, that was a good point, because like if myself back in college was watching this.
Oh, fuck that guy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like this guy's nuts. This guy, you know, he's
Well, you can't be this guy's friend, right?
Right,
He needs to be.
for sure.
If you were friends before, an excommunication needs to take place very soon, or that's at the very least. At the very least, you just don't talk to him anymore, which is how you're trained. So we get that.
you use him as an
sermon
illustration.
example.
Sermon illustration.
I use when I was a youth pastor for 2 years, for a short time. I use a lot of friends as sermon examples, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm them now.
Yep.
And I have no doubt that I have been a sermon example many times. I'm happy for that. I need to get my name out there, so that's great. Although they're probably not using my name, but it's what you're saying is if you're on the inside and you're watching this. And again, we don't look at you as like, oh, well, fuck that guy. We're like, no, like, man, like, we're glad you watched it, or woman, whatever. We're glad you watched it.
Sure.
We're glad you watched this. And if you feel the way that we're describing, like, you need to excommunicate, or you may need to call us or text us and say, hey, dude, like, I do not agree. Like, that, what you're saying is wrong. Hey, thanks for thinking, but we want you to think for yourself.
Right.
Don't think for us.
Right.
You don't got to agree with us.
We've already done that.
Yeah, we're good on all that. But again, the point that I think needs to be made is this shit is bananas, and there's a lot of it still going on, and there's a lot of people that are still in it. And we don't. Again, I've made plenty of blanket statements here, but I don't want to say one that says like everyone that's in it at any level is all wrong. Like that's not something that I want to subscribe to. But I do want to say, you know, this is a very real thing, and it's still going on. And whatever level you're at, if you're in or you're out, I just want you to be happy.
For sure.
Look at yourself and think about it. Like,
Life's
are
too
you
short.
happy? Like, look, I'm not saying like I'm happy all the time every day, because I sure as hell ain't.
Right.
But I'm a lot happier than I was.
Yeah.
I can tell you that right now. And this is, and I'll sign off soon, but this is something, the conversation I had with a friend of mine who was going to a more evangelical church, as we would say, you know. But she was getting a lot of guilt. She was feeling a lot of guilt, and she was feeling a lot of, just, she felt bad. And I would ask her why. Well, I missed this meeting, and I didn't go to that thing, and I needed to donate to this thing for the church, and I didn't tithe, or whatever the case was. And my beliefs on Jesus, on God, they honestly fluctuate from day to day. Anyone that's talked to me knows this. My big thing is this. If you believe the teachings of Christ, if you believe in God, and I don't question your belief in any way, shape, or form, but if you have this belief system and you really want to adhere to it, and you've read the Gospels, and you've read the New Testament, and you know the whole mantra of Jesus, I'm not saying Jesus never, ever, ever put guilt or shame on someone, but please show me a scripture reference where you can see that. Over and over, forgiveness and compassion.
Yep.
If that is not what you're getting in an overwhelming sense from your leadership in your church, check that shit.
Yep.
There's just, sorry, not sorry, because I don't see how you can want to say that you believe and you teach the teachings of Christ, yet you're full of anger and bitterness. And I remember as a child, as a teenager, I got I don't know, we were more of acquaintances than friends, but a kid named Casey came to, I think it was a chapel message or a missions conference at House Anderson. And when he came back, like, I was all gung-ho, and I thought screaming from the pulpit was just a tremendous thing. And I remember us coming back. He was a real mild-mannered kind of guy. And Casey said, okay, like, I get their points, and I like them. He was a Christian as well. Like, I get their points, and I like them, and they make sense, but why do they have to yell all the time? What's with all the screaming? And that was the thing that I never could get a handle on. I did ministry work for 2 years. I couldn't. I wanted to be motivational or helpful.
Right.
I'm not saying I was great. Whatever. I was whatever. I'm just saying that is. I don't understand how when you're preaching. I haven't even had any whiskey for a minute.
Thank you,
when you're
Jameson.
when you're preaching peace and thankfulness and forgiveness, why do you gotta scream? And this isn't like, I know I've got friends and maybe people that'll watch this podcast, and some of my favorite people in the world still practice that kind of method of preaching. Yeah. Do you? But I'm just saying, I don't see how it translates.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show you, like, you can see the difference, and I don't even know really the right way of saying it, because I know a lot of people are going to look at this. And what's great, let me preface this, that a lot of people are looking at, they might watch this and think that, you know, there's that we agree on 100% on everything.
Nope.
No, we don't.
Mm-mm.
But at the
this
same,
guy goes to church way more than I go to church.
Yeah,
I go
like
3 times a year.
But here's the thing. Here's where we're coming at you from. It doesn't matter where you're at. Mm-hmm. Like, he has different perspectives. Yep. There's people out there that have different perspectives than I do. Yes, I'm out of that sect of religion. But do I see the benefits of having something like that? 100%. Am I raising my son that way? Yes. But does it matter? Like, if people disagree, and I feel like that's the disconnect. Is they feel if I disagree with you, we can no longer have a conversation. Now it needs to be an argument.
It's outrage.
Yeah,
I've heard it said recently.
You were talking about it.
Yeah, I've heard it said recently that there has been so much in our culture, in our society. There's been so much power given to outrage. If you can, doesn't matter what it is. And I'm not going to get into the subject matter because it'll be time sensitive, and I really don't want to get into that conversation. Yeah. But whatever it is that you're showing outrage about, whether it's something that's actually happened to you or to someone else, I'm not discrediting abuse or any of that sort of thing. That's not what this is about. But when you're showing outrage for just, like you said, just based on a disagreement with someone, then for me, when I talk to people that I know don't feel the same way about me on a lot of things, we talk about the things we feel the same way about.
Yeah.
And you can say, oh, you're being a little bitch or you're whatever, like, just be a man, have a real conversation. That's fine. Yeah. You know what? I learned the hard way that I don't love stress. Yep. It's not a real fun thing for me. Stress in the gym, hell yeah, bring it. Mm-hmm. Stress at work, don't love it, but it makes me grind and I hustle and I work hard. That's all. That's one thing. But when it comes to my personal life and a conversation that I'm having, if I can avoid stress, I'm going to avoid stress.
Yep.
I'm not a huge fan. That's not to say if someone comes at me and is being a dick, I'm not going to say, hey, step off. Or someone says or does something to my child, then we got beef. But squash it. But other than that, if someone's directly threatening you and or your livelihood or your family, that's something to talk about or do something about, actually. But when it's just you need to be outraged about something because you don't agree, come on, man. Like, that's ridiculous.
It is. And I just think, we get looked, and I say we, I don't mean we anymore, but that aspect of it, of that type of Christianity, if you can call it that, the reason people didn't like us, and they don't like you, to be honest, and again, not a blanket statement, but just as a whole, because you are identifying with that, is that they don't feel comfortable because they know that if they're different, they either have to be made to conform, and people love that, don't conform to the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, first of all, chill. Life is too short to stress out about any of this. Nobody knows who's right. Nobody knows who's wrong.
Amen.
Do you, right? Nobody knows. Like, you can hear your preacher, cool, that's great, that's awesome. Or if you go off and do your own study, phenomenal. Nobody knows who's right or who's wrong. Nope. So life's way too short. And that's one thing that always blows my mind. I'm like, I'm more worried about paying my bills and raising, like, me.
Yeah.
I'm still raising myself. I'm 30, turning 31. You turn 32 tomorrow.
Yeah. Good
and,
memory.
we have so much other stuff going on. There's so many other issues that nobody talks about. Everybody wants to talk about, well, our brand of Christianity is better than this brand because of this. It's like, dude, get rid of it. Squash it. It doesn't matter. If somebody uses a different Bible than you, is that really something to stand up and beat somebody about? And I know people, when they watch this, it's like, dude, we don't agree on everything. We're not going to agree on everything. No, if it works for you, do it. But just because you don't agree with somebody doesn't mean that you have to hate that person, talk bad about them.
Just because you disagree doesn't make you good and them bad or vice versa. It's not a good and bad thing. It's we're all human.
Yes.
To me, the beauty of it is, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, we're all different and we're all the same. Mm-hmm. We're all made up of the same shit. Mm-hmm. Like, we all, for the most part, have very similar feelings and expressions for how we feel. Like that's all the same.
Yeah.
And then what we like or we're into or what we hate, that's different for so many people, and that's fine. Let yourself be different.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, this has now turned into like a plea to people that are on the inside, and I love it. But the thing is, like, there's no room for identity. Your identity is wrapped up generally in your church leader or some other bigger leader at another church that you report to. I know people don't like how that sounds, but that's how it works. Yeah. Your identity isn't wrapped up in yourself. And again, you can overdo that and overthink that and get too far into your identity where you're just overthinking everything you're doing, or however that comes to you in a negative way, because it can be negative.
Yeah.
But you still have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And the cliche phrase applies. Like, at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, you're looking in the mirror at you. Yes, you have a spouse or a significant other or family or your children, and those are very important. But at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, it's you, and that's it. And are you happy or are you not happy? And what can you do that won't negatively affect someone else that will also bring you happiness?
That's a great way to put it. And I think that kind of brings it full circle, because you talked about, we kind of talked about starting off talking about weight loss and kind of segued into the different failures, and it comes to religion. And the common thread through all of that is, like you said, you're looking at you, and you talked about a great point, and I'll be done after this if you want to wrap it up, but is stress. Everything that you just talked about caused so much stress, which attributes to weight loss, or weight gain, which then brings you full circle with not being happy, which is just a vicious circle.
So vicious.
One thing that I decided, and is just not to argue with people, like, what's the point? Who cares? Like, and when I stopped caring, and I know people take this the wrong way, when I stopped caring what people thought about me, not just to go off and do my own thing, but when I stopped caring what people honestly thought about me, and I was like, I'm going to be me and just be happy, dude, it was
it's a release.
Insane. It was insane, because they're like, oh, well, you don't go to church every single Sunday 3 times? Nope.
No, man. Okay.
Nope. You're not all about using a certain type of Bible every single time? Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Just one word answers. Nope. I'm okay. I'm good. And I am. And it's phenomenal. And when you let go of that, it's like, oh, man, I can focus on this. I feel better. My stress level's down. So if you can, because stress, dude, is a huge, people stress eat.
It's everything.
So that kind of brings it full circle, because people in that religion, you're super stressed out by how you look, by what you have to do. And then you wonder why all of a sudden the weight gain.
Snap. Well, you have the weight gain,
and people snap.
You have people snap. You have guys ending up having multiple affairs, or turning out to be pedophiles. Like, you have all these things.
Dude, that's
and again,
crazy.
There's no excuse for it. I'm not saying like, well, they were stressed, so they did it. Although that's been played out as an excuse many times. But you have to look at yourself and say, like, look, what are my stress levels at? Where does it stop? It's all about, then we started with this, it's about your priorities. And this is not two guys saying, hey, check it out, we got to figure it out, do this thing, and you'll be happy the rest of your life.
Absolutely
I have no idea what the fuck is going on, but I do know what worked for me. And so if there's anything you can take from this, or anything you can pass on, or anything that you feel like could help you, it's just that, like, find a way to prioritize, find a way to figure out whether religion is a priority for you, whether God is a priority. And again, it's all about you and figuring that out. So
for sure.
We'll leave it off there. This was an amazing podcast. I had a blast.
It was awesome.
It's almost 2 hours long. I might cut it up. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it was a great conversation. Thanks so much, dude. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
We'll definitely have Jon on again. I don't have like an official sign off, so thanks, guys. I appreciate you checking it out. If you watched this far, geez, thank you. I appreciate it.